The Chinese pretty much own Jamaica. I mean, the Jamaican government is giving them concessions, land concessions. They're building hotels, beach resorts. They're building 2 schools for the Japanese, for the Jamaicans. And what the Jamaicans have to give them in turn is the right to certain lands, the right to certain waterways. And if it doesn't stop, Jamaica, ironically, the land of Marcus Garvey and Bob Marley, will be the first Chinese colony in the Caribbean.
Wow.
It's getting bad. And you know why it's happening? Because the black bourgeoisie leadership in both Africa and the Caribbean, they don't have to live with the consequences of the economic decisions they make. So if I'm the president of Jamaica, okay, and China says, listen, we're going to give you $1 million in retirement. We're going to build you a retirement home, but we want this, this, and this. And you can loan as much money as you want. You can borrow as much money from the Bank of China as you want. I'm going to be set by the time I leave office. But what about my nation? Jamaica will be struggling for the next 50 years.
Hi guys, once again welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm your host Larry, and I have a very interesting video for you, and at the same time this is a very sad video. Now in this video we have an American activist who is Dr. Umar Johnson. Now Dr. Umar Johnson has come out and exposed what the Chinese are doing in Jamaica, and this also exposes what the Jamaican governments are doing to the Jamaicans by involving the Chinese. So I want you to watch this video up to the end, and please consider subscribing to my channel if you're yet to subscribe. Like this video, comment, and also share. So watch this video up to the end, and then I'll be back with a few comments.
So what's on your mind today, man?
All is well. Just came back from China and Japan.
Okay.
My first visits over there, speaking with the African community.
and Japan?
And Japan.
Really?
I spent a week in Japan, Tokyo and Nagoya.
Okay.
And then they flew me.
Dope.
Yeah, Nagoya is dope. I really enjoyed it. And then I went to Shanghai and Beijing. It was bittersweet. Sweet because it was good seeing African people in a different setting from America. Okay, I had never been to China, so it was very good to see that. The bitter side is the fact that we're not treated well over there.
Really?
I'm not surprised at that.
What you mean?
But I was taken aback by the extent to which racism is practiced against blacks in China openly.
Really?
So in America, we have a civil rights culture. So racism, you have to tuck it under.
Has to be covert.
It has to be covert.
Yeah.
And China is very much overt. There were certain nightclubs that we couldn't go into.
Really?
Oh, yeah. And they will tell you no black people are allowed here.
What?
There's certain sections of certain neighborhoods you can't live in. So, for example, if they don't want you in a certain section in Brooklyn, they will just use clever real estate tactics to keep you out.
Absolutely.
Okay, i.e. your credit ain't good enough or the bank didn't approve your loan. They don't have to do that in China. Exactly.
They're direct with it.
They're direct with it. We don't want black people here. Oh, without question. And the irony is what? Africa is rolling out the red carpet for China. I mean, they're taking over the Caribbean. They're taking over Africa.
They're never taking over the Caribbean.
They're all in South Africa. In fact, Mandarin is now an official language in the Republic of South Africa. Zulu isn't. Xhosa isn't. So the indigenous languages are not taught in the school, but Mandarin is. That speaks to the influence of China, but they don't roll out the red carpet for us in China. We're the first to build every civilization everywhere. So I don't care if you're in Mexico, if you're in Europe. Who were the first Europeans? The Grimaldis of Africa, who migrated 20 to 40,000 years ago, and in the process of climatology, lost the pigmentation, the deep pigmentation that we have. So no matter where you go, we were the first people there.
Is there any place in the world we can go and not experience racism?
No, not at all.
Even the Caribbean?
Not even in the Caribbean. In fact, when I was in Jamaica, I keynoted the Garvey celebration last summer, Ocho Rios. The Chinese pretty much own Jamaica. I mean, the Jamaican government is giving them concessions, land concessions. They're building hotels, beach resorts. They're building 2 schools for the Jamaicans. And what the Jamaicans have to give them in turn is the right to certain lands, the right to certain waterways. And if it doesn't stop, Jamaica, ironically, the land of Marcus Garvey and Bob Marley, will be the first Chinese colony in the Caribbean.
Wow.
It's getting bad. And you know why it's happening? Because the black bourgeoisie leadership in both Africa and the Caribbean, they don't have to live with the consequences of the economic decisions they make. So if I'm the president of Jamaica, okay, and China says, listen, we're going to give you $1 million in retirement. We're going to build you a retirement home, but we want this, this, and this. And you can loan as much money as you want. You can borrow as much money from the Bank of China as you want. I'm going to be set by the time I leave office. But what about my nation? Jamaica will be struggling for the next 50 and 75 years because of bad economic decisions from selfish leaders today. And that's the problem in Africa, and it's the problem in the Caribbean. Well, you got to remember, China is overpopulated. So it's always looking for opportunities to dump some of its excess population.
Right.
And you know what's so sad? Chinese will come to South Africa poor with nothing. And in 3 years, they're owning 2 and 3 major businesses. Because what happens is when the Chinese come, they employ their own. They don't employ indigenous African labor. But this is exactly what the heads of state tell black people. Let the Chinese come to Jamaica. Let them come to South Africa. They're going to give you guys jobs. The jobs never come. They bring their own population, which makes sense from their perspective because they have so many people that need a place to go outside of China. So they're showing up broke and going back home as millions.
Please explain how China has strategically taken over control of numerous African countries and Jamaica without the use of military force. What will their domination mean long term?
Great question. I'll pause because it bothers me when I look at Africa and the Caribbean islands. And I just came back from Aruba, and I'll be going later on this year to Martinique, Curacao, and back to Suriname in South America. But it bothers me when I look at the history of how we fought for liberation, followed by independence in the Caribbean, only to hand that independence back over to another race of people. So we fought for freedom from the white man, and now we're handing over that freedom to the yellow man. When I was in Jamaica, 2015, I keynoted National Heroes Week, Irie FM and Ocho Rios and Marcus Garvey's back, me and Muta Baruka, actually. And while I was in Jamaica, I heard all these rumblings about the Chinese. And I've been to Jamaica before and I've seen the Chinese. But in studying what they have done since my last visit, I was astounded and appalled to find out that they had made so much inroads into controlling and influencing the infrastructure of the Jamaican people. The Chinese built a road from Kingston, one side of the island, to the other side of the island. And in exchange for the roads that they built, the Jamaican government, unless this has changed since then, gave the Chinese total control over the toll money that will be made by people using the Northwest or East-West Highway. Why would you give a foreign power complete monetary control of the tolls on this road that you know half of Jamaica going to be using? You're talking millions of dollars of revenue you're giving to the yellow man just because he built the road. In addition to that, the Chinese are building it's probably done by now. They were building at that time 2 schools, and they were bringing Chinese educators over to help the Jamaican people educate black children. They built the Children's Hospital, which is supposed to be largely staffed with Chinese. They also gave the Chinese total control of all tourism on both sides of that highway that goes from one side of the island to the other. I was also told that they gave the Chinese the right to drill in natural rainforests in the Jamaican on the Jamaican territory for Chinese exploitation. They'd given them tax abatements, and they also purchased, if I'm not mistaken, the port, the main port of Jamaica.
All right, they own the port.
Is owned by the Chinese. Exactly. If another race owns your port, that means they control what's coming in. They control what's going out. What about the drugs? What about the guns? What about the COVID? You don't know what them people bringing in. And you mean to tell me that the Chinese care so much about Jamaican people that they're not going to educate our kids and take care of their health? Chinese don't care about black folks. Go to China. Go to China and see how they treat black people in China. So to me, what I think this is the government of Jamaica, like so many African governments, so many other Caribbean governments have done. They've gotten in bed financially with the Chinese. The Chinese have studied the way the white man has practiced neocolonialism throughout Africa. And the Chinese has learned that these black leaders don't really care about their people. They're all about their pockets. So I'm going to do what the white man did, but I'm going to do it 1 time better. I'm going to offer them double the money. You let me take over this land right here, I'll get the white man offering you $1 million. I'm offering you $3 million. And I'm going to build you a retirement home. And I'm going to pay for all your kids to go to college in China. You follow what I'm saying? And I'm going to give you a private military. So the Chinese have basically become neo-colonialists 2.0. They're outdoing the Europeans. You follow me? And they're giving Caribbean and African leaders offers that they can't refuse. And guess what? When you abdicate on that loan that they give you, because all this is loans. These are not handouts. It's all loans. When you abdicate on the loan in that contract, you have to give them large concessions of land and large concessions of your economy. There's an African country right now. Is it Uganda? There was an African country who defaulted on their loan to the Chinese, and they now own their national airport. I forget which, they own the airport now because they couldn't pay back the loan. The Chinese know what they're doing. The problem we have as African people is we tend to think anybody who's not white is a friend of ours. Nobody is our friend, not the Arab, not the Chinese, not the Latino, except the African Latinos who identify with us, not the East Indians, not the Native Americans. We don't have friends. But black people have been seduced into this multiculturalism, which says the brown man is your friend, the yellow man is your friend, the red man is your friend. No, they're not. Black people don't have no friends. And my greatest fear about Chinese neocolonialism 2.0, my greatest fear about Chinese neocolonialism 2.0 is when the time for revolution comes, because there will be a second revolution because you got to get rid of the Chinese. You're going to have to fight 10 times harder. When you fought to get the white man out in the 60s, in the 40s, in the 50s, it was a little easier because he don't have the numerical strength. The white man had to use other black people in his armies to fight blacks because they're only 10% of the world. They don't have enough. China is the most populous country on the planet Earth. They have 1 billion people, not to mention their reserves around the planet. Okay? Don't get me wrong. African people, we're 2 billion. We're the biggest. The problem is most of us identify something other than black, which reduces our numbers. I'm not African. I'm multiracial. I'm not African. I'm Latino. I'm not African. I'm Samoan. You follow? So we are disintegrated based on these names. Here's the point that I'm making. Because the Chinese have the technology, because the Chinese have the manpower, the second war for African independence, the second revolution for African independence against Chinese neocolonialism 2.0 is going to be 10 times as bloody, 10 times as long, and it's going to require the sacrifice of 10 times as many people. We will not be able to throw them out of Africa and throw them out of the Caribbean as easily as we did the whites. And the whites wasn't easy. That was a hell of a war. So just multiply that by 100. And that's what we're going to have to deal with the Chinese. The worst thing we're doing is giving them all this, and it's being done through the politicians. The politicians are doing it. But here's 3 things that keeps Africa enslaved to the Chinese and the white man by virtue of their politicians. Number 1, we have been distracted in America, the Caribbean, Africa, all over the world. It's a Pan-African problem. We have been distracted from development with democracy. Everybody's focusing on who to vote for. You're not looking at the conditions. What's going to change whether he wins or he wins? Because guess who's financing both of them? The same people stealing your oil. Who's financing both of them? The same people stealing your gold. Who's financing both of them? The same people stealing your coltan. You follow me? So democracy is a joke they play on black people to make you think you can have radical transformation without revolution. The reason the white man pushes democracy globally so hard is if there's ever a breakdown in the black man's confidence in democracy, the only alternative is revolution. So that's number 1. Democracy is a distraction from development. Number 2, when I travel, especially Africa, but it's true in the Caribbean also, black people are more concerned with their tribe being in control than they are with liberation from foreign control. Are you following me? I've seen it. So when the elections is coming up, it's not about freeing us from white supremacy or Chinese imperialism. It's about, are my people going to be the president? Is somebody from my tribe going to be the prime minister? And because they're more concerned about tribal imperialism than African independence, this democratic scheme that they run on black people continues because we're so petty and so small in our thinking. I just want to make sure his people don't get the presidency. I'm not even looking at the bigger picture. The white man knows this. The Chinese know this. So they come in, exploit, finance both sides. So no matter who wins, they get all the resources. And then the third issue is most African leaders and Caribbean are foreign educated. They go to Britain for their education. They go to France for their education. They go to Belgium. They come to America for their education. And what did Dr. Carter G. Woodson say in Miseducation of the Negro? The college-educated Negro is seldom of any use to his race because the education he gets is an education that takes him away from identification with his people. So most of our African and Caribbean and American leaders are Negropean. They have an African body. They have a European mind. So the white man and the yellow man are controlling the black man through remote control by virtue of conscious control of the way that he thinks. The entire thought process of the African leader, there's a few exceptions, but for most of them and the Caribbean, the entire thought process is that of a white man. How can we get free?
So guys, once again, welcome back to my YouTube channel, and I've just a few commentary on what we've just watched. Now that was Dr. Umar Johnson, an American activist. Now Dr. Umar Johnson has come out and really explained to us to why most of the Jamaicans are complaining about their government and their leaders. And in this case, they're talking about Dr. Andrew Holness, who is the current president of Jamaica. Now, in this case, Dr. Umar Johnson has exposed that the government of Jamaica has given the Chinese privilege to the consensus land. This means that we've seen headlines that Chinese are being given the privilege to control some ports in Jamaica. Now, when you give a foreign country, a foreign national, control of your port, this means that this person is responsible for whatever is coming in your country and going out of your country. For instance, in this case, we've seen a lot of high crime rates in Jamaica. Now, we don't know who to blame. Most people keep on blaming, like people like pointing fingers. But how do you expect to have a peaceful country when somebody else controls your port? You don't know if this person is smuggling weapons in your country. You don't know if this person is exploiting your country's resources. We've seen a lot of Jamaicans complain about this. They say that the government has given more privileges to the outsiders. And now, this is what Dr. Umar Johnson has just talked about. We've seen also Jamaicans complain. We've seen videos of Jamaicans being kicked out of hotels at the beach, and these hotels are being owned by white people and the Chinese. So you tell me, how would you let a foreigner oppress, discriminate the citizen of that country, of your country? Why would you allow something like that to happen? Jamaicans, they have the right to use their resources. They have the right to own their beaches. They have the right to visit their beaches anytime they want. And now in this case, Jamaicans are being forced to pay for them to attend, or rather to go to their very own beaches. Trust me, when I say this. This is one of the saddest videos I've just watched. What's happening to my beautiful Jamaica? What's happening to the leaders in Jamaica? What happened to the leaders serving the citizens of their own country? What happens to the leaders giving their citizens the first privileges and priorities? Why don't these leaders just create a lot of job opportunities? Why don't they give the first privileges to the Jamaicans before they can give it to other people? I'm sure in Jamaica there are a lot of investors just of the same Jamaican native, but the government has failed to recognize them. But instead now they give these privileges and opportunities to the Chinese. Now, would it be wrong? Or rather, would I be wrong? Would Dr. Umar Johnson be wrong when he says that Chinese pretty much owns Jamaica. How I'd really love to see Jamaicans really enjoy time at their own beaches. I want to see Jamaicans happy using their resources. And how is this going to be possible when some of the leaders are betraying their own people? It's not just betraying their own people, they are betraying their country. Why don't leaders follow the steps, the idea that Captain Ibrahim Traore has just started? We want to see Jamaica, we want to see the Caribbean and Africa strengthen their relationship and renew their ties. We know Africa is a very rich continent. We want all black nations to unite. So, how I'd wish that Jamaicans would be served how they are supposed to be served. Be given the first privileges, first priorities before anybody else. And that's exactly what Muammar Gaddafi was doing before he was assassinated. He said that he wanted all the oil that was being mined, or rather drilled in Libya, to be used to develop Libya, to be used to help the citizens of Libya before it can be exported to any other country. And now the West didn't want that. And now the same thing is happening again. In Jamaica, why is the government giving more privileges to the Chinese than the citizens of, or rather than the Jamaicans? The same thing is happening in Africa. We've seen the world try to assassinate Captain Ibrahim Traore because he is doing the right thing for his own country. So guys, without much to say, I have to appreciate you for watching my videos up to this point, and I'd love to urge you, if you're watching my videos for the first time, please consider subscribing to my channel, like my videos, comment, and also share. Your support means so much to me, and it keeps me motivated to keep on creating more videos, more content for you. So I'm your host Larry, and until we meet again in my next video, peace out and one love.